Hey YouTube, this is Wrestling Amusement Park Fan 62. During the COVID pandemic now, we're a little over a year into it, WWE had to get creative on how they hold their shows, which are Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and Main Event. Main Event is not really a show too many people watch, but I listed that anyway. Now, during that time, Raw and SmackDown were both held at the Performance Center. Now, if you don't know what the Performance Center is, this is a venue that WWE has for the current stars that they have on their shows, to new stars coming in, to with the stars that are already there, for them to get better. Like, if they have moves that they need to work on, they can work on it there, for rehab and so forth. Well, they converted it into an arena of some sorts. And the first major event that they had in the Performance Center at the time was WrestleMania 36. And it wasn't bad. But the thing about the Performance Center is, especially in the wrestling industry, it doesn't matter if you're a heel or a face, which means a good guy or a bad guy. Basically, you work off the fans' reaction. If there's no fans, that's what makes it harder for them to do, because you're having to do these matches even though there's no people cheering or booing you. Plus, if you go back and look at them, you can hear them talk to each other. You can hear the ring move. They had shows at the Performance Center for Raw and SmackDown starting on the March 13th episode of SmackDown. And then the first Raw was the March 16th episode of Monday Night Raw. And all that went through August 21st. Then they went to the Thunderdome, which I'll get to here in 1 second. Now, in there too is NXT. Now, at the time, they were at their normal location, but because of things, they had to relocate to the Performance Center. It's now called the Capitol Wrestling Center, which is where they've held all of NXT and their pay-per-views and such. Now, with Raw and SmackDown. Now, the Thunderdome is something WWE came up with, which started on the SmackDown before SummerSlam in 2020. This is an experience where you, the audience, can participate in different ways. So instead of you being there physically, you can be there via your webcam on your phone or computer. You have to sign on and go that way. Now, as of now, it's been in 3 different locations. It's been at the Amway Center in Orlando, which, if you don't know where that is where the Orlando Magic basketball play. So they were there from August 7th through January, or through late December, I believe. And then they moved to Tropicana Field which is where the Tampa Bay Rays play, starting from in January or late December through April 7th, I believe it was. And now they're at the Yuling Center down in South Florida. And they're going to be there through, at least as of the current date, through right before SummerSlam. From there, I'm not entirely sure where they're going to go. Now, the good thing about the Thunderdome is you can still participate in different ways. So, yes, they have piped-in crowds and all, but you can still, like, chant and boo on the webcams. Now, they may not be able to hear you physically, but you can tell by the expressions on the webcams what people are doing. So, there's that. Now, what about going forward? Now, this is harder to predict because of the current circumstances out there. Now, a lot of arenas are starting to hold events again. Slowly but surely, they are. Now, the problem with that is they do limit the amount of fans into these events. Now, in some states, arenas like that aren't even allowed to have fans at all. I know California's like that slowly. Washington State is like that slowly, and so forth. Now, what does this mean going forward? Now, WWE has talked about starting to have live shows again, starting later half of this year. So, if I had to guess, if they decide to do that, the first show they could do that is SummerSlam, maybe the Raw after SummerSlam, depending on certain circumstances, and how with the vaccines and all are going. So we just have to see. But it's just a scenario we all have to look into later on.